What do you call an ignorant, arrogant, out-of-touch white savior YouTuber with all the charisma of the Irish potato famine? Jacksepticeye. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idol, and Jack said something so unreasonable, so egregious when it comes to the modern-day video game scene that we have to talk about this because it might come off as an absolute nothing burger to you guys, but just wait till I lay it in perspective. So first of all, what did he even say? Well, let's take a listen.
I don't think they're ever going to remake Resi 5 because of the obvious racial conflict that's happening in that game, and I think it would be completely stupid. That game has not aged well in terms of who you're fighting. So they would have to just fundamentally change what the game is about.
Well, first of all, I get you guys might think this is a nothing burger, but Capcom has been fundamentally changing things in their recent Resident Evil releases. In fact, just their recent games in general to be more aligned with Western values, as if that's something that the gamers want. But beyond that, beyond the fact that that's something that Capcom has been doing, that shows that Capcom cares about what the West has to think. And you got idiots like this dude right here. Idiots who think he understands what's going on in the culture war, with the climate, with the politics, yada, yada, yada. Someone like this with 30 million subscribers. That means he has a massive platform. The dude is preaching to who knows how many people watching this live stream at that moment. There's going to be news outlets like Kotaku to pick up on this. We know that Kotaku and Polygon, even IGN recently ran a ridiculous hit piece about Resident Evil 5 and how if they remade the game, it would have to be completely and utterly altered. And then you got this moron right here adding to it, but being completely and utterly wrong while he does. Let's roll that back. Let's start from the beginning.
I don't think they're ever going to remake Resi 5 because of the obvious racial conflict that's
The obvious racial conflict? What racial conflict is happening in Resident Evil 5? I dare you to tell me what racial conflict is happening in Resident Evil 5, because for something to be a racial conflict, then the conflict must be about race, but that's not what the conflict of the game is at all. The conflict of the game is a virus. You're fighting a virus, and but Leon, you're fighting it in Africa, so you're killing black people. Oh, get the hell over yourselves. You could have viruses in China and Resident Evil 6, or all over Europe and parts of Resident Evil 6 and parts of Resident Evil 4. You could have it all over America and various other Resident Evil games, but all of a sudden, there's a problem. It's immediately a racial conflict when we set it in Africa. Should Africans be immune to viruses? Well, first, I'm pretty sure Africa is where AIDS came from, so clearly in real life, they're not immune to viruses. I'm just saying, like, I actually like the accuracy that Capcom portrayed in terms of putting a virus in Africa. But yes, when he says there's racial conflict in the game, how many individuals, who knows what this guy's demographic is, but if I had to wager a guess, I'd say his demographic is younger individuals, people that did not play Resident Evil 5 in 2008, 2009 when it came out. You know, you've got younger kids now, they're probably 13, 14, 15 years old, they're watching these streamers, and they're finding out about games that way, and they're gonna hear this, and they're gonna latch onto it, and they're gonna hop on their forums, and X, and Facebook, and what other outlets they use nowadays, and they're just going to get this secondhand information. They're going to use that as the basis for their argument. Probably the types of individuals, they got pronouns in their bios and flags in their bios and whatnot. The folks that want to tell you to stand with Palestine or stand with Ukraine or whatever it is, you know, they're going to tell you I'm a she, her, they, and then they're going to go with just this secondhand knowledge that this incorrect YouTuber, you know, with a head the size of Dr. Eggman, you know, said they're going to look at him like he's some paragon of righteousness in the gaming industry. Well, Jacksepticeye says we can't remake Resident Evil 5. Well, I guess we can't remake Resident Evil 5 because the game is racist. I mean, he said himself he's got racial conflict when there is not an ounce of racial conflict in the game. The conflict is over a virus. In fact, Capcom was so scared of this game being perceived as racist even back then that you're not just killing black people. If you played through Resident Evil 5, oddly enough, it's strange. So many of the NPCs are of various races. I mean, first of all, there's white Majini. They're not called zombies, by the way. They're Majini. There's white Majini. There's Mexican-looking Majini. There's obviously very black Majini. Like, you're not just killing fucking black people, so that's out the window. Again, you've got your main characters are black and white. Their skin color means nothing. There's no connotation to their skin color mattering between Chris and Sheva or Josh Stone, who's another prominent black male character in the game. None of the time, at no point does the skin color matter to the story aside from they are in Africa. But he says even more dumb shit.
It's happening in that game, and I think it would be completely stupid. That game has not aged well.
The game hasn't aged well. If the game hasn't aged so well, how come the servers are still active for individuals to play it online? Because just graphically, it's aged pretty well. Gameplay-wise, it's aged pretty well. You could say that it hasn't aged well because of the themes, the connotations, but again, that's just you butting your head to a culture war you know nothing about. That is you inserting yourself and just taking whatever modern-day liberal talking points are, of the hot button issue. You immediately like, oh, has to do with black people. That means it didn't age well. I defy you to go back and watch old episodes of like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or Martin or something and tell me it doesn't age well when those are absolutely beloved pieces of media by people the world over. Now, the game has aged. If you want to talk about how the game physically, the actual gameplay hasn't aged well, I would disagree. We would have a debate there, but that's not what he means. It's very obvious. He's talking about the racial connotations of the game not aging well, when that is complete and utter bogus. I still know people that play Resident Evil 5. Hell, I still go back and replay Resident Evil 5. Like, there's so many people that do. If for the longest time, it was the highest selling Resident Evil game in the franchise, of all time. Now, it did recently end up getting beat out in like 2017 or something, but it held the reins for like 9 years as the highest selling game in the franchise. So for you to tell me it hasn't aged well because you're only looking at it through your modern socio-political lenses without actually trying to understand the nuance of it, you're saying it because it's the right thing to say, and you're getting roasted for it, by the way. We're going to go through the tweets here in a sec. Tommy is getting roasted, as he should, because he is a complete moron. Small-eyed, facial hair, not looking half as decent as mine, and even mine is shit. Like, the fuck you, Jacksepticeye. Let's let him finish out and see if there's any other ridiculous things he said before we look at the comments roasting this mofo.
In terms of who you're fighting. So they would have to just fundamentally change what the game is about.
Okay, so yeah, and that's the end of that. But yeah, I liked seeing this. This is a comment from Lemonade that was on the YouTube video, probably originally talking about this. As an East African, I was absolutely excited to see my language in a game franchise that I grew up playing. Literally everyone in our school knew Resident Evil 5 and loved it. Hearing the zombies speak Swahili so accurately was so cool. But it's sort of weird how these Western media outlets assume our stance for us, saying the game has a racist undertone and is offensive to Africans. It's not. We can do the talking for ourselves if it was. I kinda hate it when other non-related groups take it upon themselves to practice virtue signaling like it's their duty to speak for others. I can guarantee none of these people making a fuss about the game have known an African or have ever been to Africa. Tell me, Jackie boy, have you ever been to Africa? Like, I'm genuinely curious. What have you done? What sort of charity? What sort of goodwill? Have you just spent time there? I mean, maybe you got to Egypt. That doesn't really count, going to a tourist place like Egypt. Tell me how much time you spent in Uganda or Zimbabwe. No. Homie has no idea. Again, he is just going off whatever the approved talking points are because he is so brainwashed, because YouTubers like Jacksepticeye are so brainwashed in this modern day version of, I have to walk on eggshells, I can't say anything, I have to have the correct approved opinions. Like, dude wants to talk about how it hasn't aged well, he leans in, Jacksepticeye isn't even all that Irish. Like, yes, he was Irish and he was born in Ireland, but he plays up his accent. His coffee company is called Top of the Morning Coffee. Like, dude started a coffee company playing up his own fucking Irish ancestry and whatnot, but he's upset that Resident Evil 5, a video game, has black people in it. Like, it's so maddening to me to see these simps for modern ideology. Leptoid YouTubers stop inventing racism when it doesn't exist challenge impossible. But the quote tweets, man, the quote tweets are wrecking, homie. Like, right at the top, you got my boy Hypnotic. White zombies, okay. Asian zombies, okay. Mexican zombies, okay. Black zombies, what the fuck? No, this is racist and hasn't aged well. You need to change this if you're going to remake it and believe you and even rethink about killing black zombies in Africa. What the fuck? And I hate this. I hate this post. Because Hypno took a massive L with this. Like Hypno is absolutely the loser in this particular post. And the reason for that is because they're not zombies. They're Majini. So you gotta alter your argument a little bit, because I can't take it seriously if you don't know the right name for the infected individual. No, I'm joking. No, Hypno killed it. What about Atreus? Why are you trying to erase my representation, white savior? I want to see myself as a zombie. Just straight clowning on mofo. Duskquill says, I like Jack, but yeah, this is a fucking stupid thing to say. Are we gonna find anybody in these reposts that are taking his side? Moronic gaming YouTuber thinking game set in Africa has a racial problem. There's literally nothing wrong with Resident Evil 5. I stand proud on this hill. If you have no issues shooting inner city whites, deep country Spaniards, there's nothing wrong with shooting Africans. We're supposed to be equal. That's what the fear and special treatment. But you know what? No, it goes beyond that, because I used to have the same mentality. I used to think, hey, you kill Spaniards, it's fine. fine. You kill the city people in Resident Evil and Raccoon City, that's fine too. You should be okay with, but it's not even about killing blacks. It's not about being okay with killing blacks. The fact that people want to reduce it down to killing blacks is kind of the bullshit part of the argument, because that's not what you're doing. You're fighting a virus. You are fighting monsters. That's the thing. In this game, at the end of the day, this is a horror game. Now, it's not a very good horror game. It's definitely more of an action game, but they are monsters. These are not people anymore. So the skin color, none of that, that's all a non-issue to begin with, because they're not even people. First of all, they're not people because they're not real, because it's a fucking video game. But that, again, that aside, we're talking about zombie-esque creatures, again called Majini, that are trying to take over the world effectively. They're trying to spread their virus throughout the rest of the world. And also, the entire point of the game being set in Africa was because Africa, like, this is from Capcom themselves, Africa is literally the cradle of humanity, the birth point of humanity. So they thought that it would be a very cool, like, artistic thing to have, you know, the point of origin for the virus also be the point of origin for humanity. So in a way, they were actually being incredibly respectful to the African, to sort of the African stance, but that's neither here nor there. Again, people are just dunking on this guy, understandably so. Imagine getting so offended over a zombie game. All the big YouTubers are such massive cucks and crybabies. They have these fake morals and are scared to be themselves and not a hive mind drone. It's not even, it's even more soy than Hollywood. And I mean, I'm worried about coming off like a hypocrite because I'm very offended over what he said about the zombie game. But again, there's a difference because, like I mentioned in the beginning, this dude has over 30 million subscribers. He has a massive platform. Jacksepticeye is one of the most famous gamers in modern day gaming. He's one of the most famous gamers on the internet as a whole. He has his own, he's incredibly rich, wealthy, successful, recognizable, owns his own company. I think he might own multiple companies actually. He's done guest spots on TV at video game awards. The dude has name recognition. And when you have name recognition, you see these video game companies take note of you. It's happened with Nick Merckx, it happened with Tim the Tatman. We saw these YouTubers get their skins in Call of Duty games. We've seen people of note on YouTube. We saw the Game Grumps get added to the video game house party. So many, once you get to a certain level of YouTube, a certain level of notoriety, these game companies start taking note of you. They start caring what you have to think or say. So you've got some dumbass like Jacksepticeye, who honestly, his great-great-granddaddy probably shouldn't have survived the potato famine, then we never would even have Jacksepticeye today, and that would be an acceptable loss in my opinion. But no, when you got someone like him saying this egregious stuff, and you already have Capcom or Square Enix or Sega or any of these other companies that talk about how they're wanting to focus on a more Western lens, and you hear someone like this saying this, someone who's got all this clout, all this cachet, they might actually take him seriously. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they took him. We know that Kotaku, Polygon, IGN, any of them take what he says seriously. They've written hit pieces about Resident Evil 5 the same way. They lift these individuals up like Jacksepticeye, who have the same ideology as if they're gaming Jesus. And it's something that we need to stop, we need to call out. So yes, while a 16-second video about Resident Evil 5 that turned into like a 12-minute video might seem like a nothing burger, this shit matters when these individuals have platforms like this that are actually affecting negative change in the video game space. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at Bolt the Word. And please do subscribe. I'm a nerdy news channel. I bring you nerdy news every day. Not always about video games or Resident Evil or anything to that effect, but anime, music, movies, Magic the Gathering, you name it. Check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon and become a member for $4.99 a month. You can join the Discord, choose the videos that I cover on a day-to-day basis, choose videos for me to react to on my live streams, and of course, just become a member of the Vital Idols. Engage in the conversation. You're not going to want to miss it because we do care about diversity. We care about diversity of thought, the only diversity that truly matters. So become a member, and remember, until next time, it's all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.